Hey, Moxy.
Hey, Ruben.
We have something big to announce to people today.
We do. Huge.
Huge. And you have no idea what we're talking about because you never pay attention in staff meetings.
I don't.
And if you would like to pay attention in staff meetings more, our sponsor, I'm just kidding, we don't have a sponsor, but we are...
I don't even go to staff meetings. We have staff meetings?
Yes, every Wednesday.
What?
At 3 p.m. It's at your house.
Well, I'm not at my house at 3 p.m. on Wednesdays.
Oh, that's true.
I'm usually in class.
Not anymore, you're graduated.
I don't even have class. What am I talking about?
So you're done.
Yeah.
But we're expanding.
We are.
Yes. We are looking for people to come on as blog writers.
Yes.
We have 2 spots open.
Yes.
We would love to have people come on board and help us write some blogs.
Yes, please.
Be part of our team. It's more of an internship type thing. It's not a paid position, but it is. We do have perks and stuff that we're going to offer eventually. Mm-hmm. But please, if you are interested in writing some blogs, if you're interested in writing in general, and you are on the pulse of pop culture and life and tacos and friendships, please send us an email at info@thebestfriendshow.com with a writing sample of some blogs.
Yes, please do it, because we are running out of things to say.
We speak so much that we can't even write things down anymore.
Yep.
And I've written 2 blogs.
Oh, I gotta write some.
Yeah, you are late.
I'm sorry. I was busy writing a 20-page thesis paper.
That's not important.
It's only a grade.
This is life.
Yeah.
Friendships.
Tacos.
Anyway, so if you're interested in being a blog writer for thebestfriendshow.com, hit us up, info@thebestfriendshow.com. Do it today.
Do it now.
Do it yesterday.
Do it last century.
There was no email last
Doesn't
century.
matter. Do it.
There was no blog last century.
Just do it.
The show didn't exist last century.
Do it. Just do it. Just.
Are you ready for this?
Hi, I'm Elmo.
Welcome to your show. This is You're My Best Friend, a podcast about life and tacos and other things.
Que rico. Tacos.
She doesn't even go here.
Okay.
Awkward.
You're listening to You're My Best Friend
Are you ready?
with 2 of my best friends, Moxy and...
So I thought you were just like the coolest person in the world, and then I met you in real life.
I'm Ruben.
But I will never know because I don't know what keys are.
That was a little weird.
Is it Miles Kennedy?
Just say it, we're not going to talk about it.
So say it or don't say it.
Say it.
You're listening to You're My Best Friend with Moxy and Ruben J.
Well, I am super excited, Moxy.
Why are you super excited?
We have probably the biggest guest to date.
Like large?
No, just like most well-known, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But that could change at any time. Who knows?
At Anna Kendrick.
Yeah, Anna. That's not how that works. Yes, at Anna Kendrick. I would love to have Anna Kendrick on the show.
I would love that.
She's my spirit animal.
I know, right?
She's like my soulmate.
That and Jennifer Lawrence.
She falls too much.
That's why she's my soulmate.
Y'all will be on the floor the whole time. You guys would get nothing done. You'd be falling all over the place.
Yep.
This guest, I'm incredibly proud for us to have gotten this guest so soon into our podcasting venture.
Me too.
I think it's an incredible guest, incredible feat for us to have this person.
Yeah.
And I'm so super excited
Yes, me too.
to welcome this person to the show.
And I'm excited too because this is a world that I don't know much about.
You
So
know nothing
I've
about this
learned
place.
so much.
You actually, when I told you that we were going to have a professional wrestling personality on the show, you looked at me and you said, like Brock Lesnar? And I was like, how do you know who Brock Lesnar is? And you said, because UFC. And I'm like, no. Well, yes, Brock Lesnar, but no, not UFC. And you're like, oh, okay. Is this like Tiger Woods? I'm like, no, completely wrong sport. And then you said, it's Donald Trump, isn't it? I said, oh, he was part of wrestling for like a minute. He's not really a wrestling person, though. This is a conversation that we had.
Am I supposed to go with it or tell you I don't know who Brock Lesnar is?
Well, you're supposed to go with it, but you also don't know who Brock Lesnar is.
What's UCF?
Anyway, so we invited a gentleman named Eric Bischoff on the show, and
Yes.
I'm gonna talk about why it's so important for me to have him on the show here in a minute. But going into this, I'm gonna say this right now.
All right. Say it, and then we won't talk about it.
Best interview ever. Moxy, I am so excited for this person.
Are you really excited?
I am so excited. Now, to give a little backstory, I don't know if our guest knows this either. I don't know if I told him this last time. But growing up, I was a huge professional wrestling fan, and I used to watch WWE, and he became the Raw general manager on air. And I had heard stories about him, and I heard how much depending on what story you heard, how much of an a-hole he was or how much of a genius he was. And I fell in the camp of believing he was a genius. And I really grew up admiring this person. And so it's a great honor for me to welcome to this show in particular, to You're My Best Friend. Please welcome Mr. Eric Bischoff. Eric, welcome, man.
I'm back, and I'm better than ever. Got a knack for making things better.
Thank you. And is there a rating for this podcast, or are we like PG rated or G rated, or can we just let things fly?
We can let things fly. We'll edit out any cuss words. So just be yourself.
Okay. Well, then I'm an asshole genius.
There you go. Perfect. Yeah. Eric, honestly, for a long time, I think I might have told you this for a long time. I admired your career. I admired the work that you did in WCW. I rooted for you in your Hollywood ventures as well. So we're going to talk about all that stuff. First and foremost, I want to ask you, how is 83 Weeks doing?
It's really doing well. And I'm only hesitating because I'm still surprised to hear myself say that. I was a little reluctant to go into the second, because I had a podcast prior to 83 Weeks, and it did okay, but it just, it really got to the point where it wasn't worth my time.
Yeah.
And it was for no other reason, I think, than chemistry and timing. We weren't on the right platform, and there was just a lot of things, that made it just okay.
Yeah.
And when Conrad said, "Hey, you want to launch another one with me?" I may have approached him first. I'm not sure which happened actually, but I was still reluctant because Conrad wanted to focus on the Monday Night War era, which, obviously people kind of associate with me with. And I thought, man, we've been hearing those stories for decades. Books have been written. Documentaries have been done. There's been about 2,000 shoot interviews by everybody, that spent more than 5 minutes in the wrestling business.
Yeah.
So I thought, God, people got to be sick of hearing about this stuff. But Conrad was convinced that he had a format and would do the research and make it interesting. And I went along with it because he was so successful with Bruce Pritchard, who's a close friend of mine. I thought, what the hell? I'm gonna bank on somebody else's expertise and judgment instead of my own. And I did, and I'm still surprised. We're probably one of the top 2 or 3 wrestling-related podcasts in the world right now. So
that's awesome.
Yay!
Yeah, that's awesome. Because I remember the old podcast, Bischoff on Wrestling, was cool, but then, I listened to the first dozen or so, and then after a while, it wasn't appointment listening for me. It really was based off of the guests that you had, because I wasn't following wrestling well enough to sit there and go and listen to your analyst. What's the word?
Analysis?
Analysis, thank you. Analysis of the current...
That's why you two work together so well.
Yeah, it's perfect. She's the brains and the beauty, and I'm just...
She's surfing on her phone and correcting your vocabulary.
Yeah, I love it. I think she was taking a selfie.
I was taking a note because it's funny that you say you kind of banked on somebody else's expertise and knowledge, because that's exactly what I do with Ruben. Yeah.
Well, here's the funny thing is Eric and I did an interview with Eric, I think in 2016, where we kind of dove. It was a last minute thing, and I just kind of, he was like, call me, and I called him, and we did an interview, and I wasn't really prepared, but it went really well. And then about 2 months later, Eric actually treated me to some beers, and we talked and hung out. And then I wrote up this proposal for a podcast that I was going to email to him, and about 2 weeks later, after I finished writing it, I'm like, no, he'll never go for this. 2 weeks later, he announced Bischoff on Wrestling with this other guy, and I'm like, And that guy, I might edit this out. That guy was a tool to me, by the way. I emailed him, just like to introduce myself, and he was a tool. But 83 weeks, man, I have not missed an episode in almost a year and a half, because I was too young to watch WCW. Like I didn't watch any of this stuff live, but the stories.
Thanks for that, brother.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Hey, you don't look a day over 40, man. And he's 35, so.
Oh, perfect.
So I do want to ask, man, like going through this process of going through the heyday of WCW, because you were the person at the helm of the greatest period of WCW's entire run. What does that do for you? Does it bring back good memories? Does it bring back bad memories? Does it make you frustrated? Does it stress you out? Does it, remind you of how far you've come since the wrestling business? Like, what's that? Is it therapeutic for you? Tell me about that.
All the things.
I mean, it depends on the subject matter. For the most part, kidding aside, it's exciting for me because when Conrad sends me an email, I got an email from Conrad yesterday saying, okay, we're going to look at Spring Stampede 1999. Spring Stampede 1999 or Slamboree, I can't remember which. Now we're gonna record that episode this Friday, so that means probably Thursday evening I'll go back and I'll watch that pay-per-view because I haven't seen it since I produced it. I don't go back and look at things. I don't live in the past, and that's you're going to hear that kind of frequently in this discussion. I literally, once something is done, a project, a relationship, an experience at a restaurant, good or bad, whatever the case may be, once it's done, it's off my radar. I don't think about it anymore.
Yeah. And
sometimes people think that's cold, especially when it comes to relationships. I'm pretty funny about that. If something happens in a relationship, business or otherwise, and I decide that that's a kind of a toxic relationship for me, or it's not productive in any way, it vanishes from my consciousness. I no longer think about it. I won't respond to it. I won't re-engage people or situations that I have determined that are just not healthy for me anymore.
Yeah.
So I just don't live in the past. I don't live in the past when it comes to really great things either, by the way. I don't spend a lot of time patting myself on the back for, successes. And I don't spend any time, kicking my own ass for things that were less successful. So what this process does for me is it forces me to go back and look at something that, quite honestly, I forgot about 20 minutes after I did it. And when I see it, it's almost like seeing it for the first time.
Yeah.
So, whoa, I remember that. Whoa, this is great. And add to that when I look at things that I produced in the past, whether it's a reality show or anything else, or wrestling, I look at it from an entirely different perspective now than I did while I was doing it. Because I'm a different person now. I have more experience now. I have a different perspective on certain things now. My tastes have evolved over time. There's a whole, culture has changed. Things you could do that would, resonate with an audience in 1996, you couldn't do today.
Yeah.
Or you did do, wouldn't connect or resonate in the same way. So when I look at things now, I'm looking at them from that perspective, which is an entirely different point of view. But during the course of that, to answer your question specifically, sometimes I get frustrated, depending on the questions. Sometimes I'm entertained. Sometimes I go, oh, my gosh, I can't believe I did that. But it doesn't bother me, because, again, it's kind of like looking at your 15-year-old self. I'm not the same as I was when I was 15 or 21 or 35 or 40 or 45.
Yeah.
I've got a lot more experience now, and I've been exposed to a lot more a different level of thinking and a different level of creative. So now when I look back, I go, wow, I can't believe we got away with that.
Yeah.
And some of it, honestly, I look back and I think, you know what? We were so far ahead of our time, it wasn't even funny.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Eric, part of our podcast is we build it around 3 signature questions. Okay, and my co-host here, Moxy Ann, she is going to go ahead and present to you. Let's shuffle it up a little bit.
Shuffle it.
Yeah,
okay.
Shuffle a little bit. But signature question number 1.
Okay.
Boxers, Moxy, boxers.
Okay. that's.
4 signature questions.
Yeah, we just added a new one.
Okay. Well. I love what you're saying about leaving things behind you and just kind of moving forward. And that headspace leads into one of our signature questions, which is, if you had a life quote, what would it be?
Never look back.
Never look. I think that defines Eric.
Yeah.
Knowing what I know about him and listening to him in enough shoot interviews and podcast, and he did a speech recently, not recently, but maybe like 2 years ago. It was like a 2 hour long speech, a Q&A session, and every question was either a, hey, when you did this, what did you think? And he goes, I don't really I don't think about that stuff. I don't, that's a really appropriate thing. Now, for those who may dwell on the past, do you have a piece of advice for them to be able to move on to the next part of that life and get to maybe a more healthy spot instead of dwelling on, whatever the failure or even the success was, and moving into that next phase of that life?
Yeah, I do. And I'm going to get to that in just a minute. But, I think it's important that when I talk about this to people, first of all, my wife has been my Sherpa guidesman through this process. She's really the one that has taught me over a long period of time, because I'm kind of a stubborn bastard on top of, genius, asshole, stubborn bastard would probably be.
That's one of the things I've heard about you.
Good bio. And it's taken me a long time, but she's been persistent. And I firmly believe that dwelling on your past shortcomings, failures, mistakes, poor decisions, whatever you want to call them, whatever you think you regret, dwelling on those things induces paralysis, emotional paralysis, creative paralysis. It just creates paralysis. Likewise, focusing on your past success does the same thing. It may feel a little bit better, kind of, sort of, but if you're stuck in it, if you haven't moved on beyond it, then you're paralyzed. And I think that's a common thing. I think we're all kind of conditioned. We're afraid of the future. We're concerned about the future, so we're worried about what's going to happen tomorrow or next week or next year. We drag our past around with us like it's a big wagon full of old shit that we feel we need to keep for some reason. All of it slows you down. And I think if you really want to enjoy your life, if you want to be the most creative you can be, if you want to be the happiest you can be, for me, through the help of my wife, here, it's right there.
Grateful.
It says grateful. And I had it tattooed on my wrist because it's easy enough for me to remind me when I start turning into something other than I want to be, and I start feeling negative, or I'm, angered by something someone said or whatever. I just think about all the things I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm not trying to preach to anybody else. I'm just telling you what works for me. Once I start feeling negative in any way, or not even negative, once I feel like I'm not being productive and I'm not moving forward, okay, what am I grateful for? I've got a beautiful wife and 2 healthy, amazing, wonderful, productive children. Everybody's healthy in my family. I have all kinds of opportunities still to this day, at this stage in my life, when most people are thinking about retirement and most people are kind of packing their shit up and just going to go sit on the porch. I'm not doing that. I've probably more opportunity, quality opportunity in front of me now than I've had in the last 25 years. And when I realized that here I am at 64 years old, and I have an opportunity to do some pretty amazing shit that I never thought I would be able to be a part of, I'm really super grateful for that. And once you start focusing on what you're grateful for, and you, even if it's something as small as the sun is shining today, sometimes I get really grateful about that because I'm affected by the weather. If it's gray and gloomy for more than 2 or 3 days in a row, I start getting I'm staring at my wrist all afternoon.
And people are questioning what's going on. There's like, is he trying to tell time, or
he's lost his mind? But when you train yourself, it becomes a subconscious thing after a while. When you don't feel like you're really making the progress you want to make in any level, in a relationship, in a business, in a job, and trying to come up with an idea, whatever the hell it is, working out, spiritually, whatever it is, just start thinking about what you're grateful for, and all of a sudden the roadblocks clear.
Yeah.
That's what works for me.
That's awesome. That reminds me of kind of my life philosophy for this season of my life is something that I've been writing on my wrist pretty consistently. And my friends all kind of, they disapprove. They very openly disapprove. But the thing that I write on my wrist...
Do I know about this?
I don't think you do.
Okay.
But my best friends, all of my best friends. I write on my wrist, do better, no excuses. And it kind of reminds me that so many people today, they go by what they feel, and they forget that at the end of the day, you're in control of your story. You're in control of your own mind, and you're in control of your own path. And I think that it's really important to remember you can do better. You can be more. You can decide to change.
It is, and it's funny how easy it is. And when I'm saying this now, believe me, if you could have seen me 5 years ago, or even 3-4 years ago, when things in my life, business-wise, weren't going that well. Jay, this, the television industry has changed so much over the last 4 or 5 years. I went from making 7 figures a year, kind of really calling my own shots, rolling great, had all the confidence in the world that was going to continue, and then just bam, this streaming thing came along.
Oh, yeah.
And this Netflix thing came along, and Hulu, and all this other stuff. And now all of a sudden, the television networks that I was selling television shows to, 2 or 3 of them a year, and making a ridiculous amount of money in the process, all of a sudden that market collapsed.
Yeah.
And the it's collapsed along with them. Well, that was a pretty abrupt change to, my life.
No kidding.
I had been enjoying at that point for about 10 or 12 years. And it took its toll. It was like, okay, I need to reinvent myself. I need to figure this shit out because, life goes on, and, I'm not going to make any money walking around the house moping about it and complaining about it. I'm going to figure out how to adapt to it. So it's easy to say, I can look at a tattoo in my wrist, or you can write something down. But it's amazing how hard it is to really change the way you think. It's so much a part of our subconscious. I would go to sleep at night 3, 4, 5 years ago when things were really a little tough. I would go to sleep at night thinking negative things. I would wake up in the middle of the night having an extension of that negative thought in the form of a freaking nightmare, and, not sleeping well at night, things like that. It's really hard to get a hold of your subconscious. That's the tricky part of it. But once you figure that out, and it's just discipline, it's just like working out, doing yoga, running a marathon, whatever it is you want to challenge yourself to do.
Some DDPY?
I'm not so sure about that. I've never done that, but whatever it is, you just have to make up your mind you're going to do it and stay consistent. And then all of a sudden you wake up one day and go, wow, I feel a lot different about things than I did, a year ago, or 6 months ago, or 3 months ago.
Eric, I don't know if you remember this, but just a random side note here. When you and I met in Los Angeles, and you were so gracious. Do you remember? I don't know if you remember this at all, but we sat down. You had a couple beers, and I had like 15 sodas throughout the our conversation. We were together for about 2 hours.
Yeah.
And it's funny you're talking about this this mental change, how difficult it is. And, Moxy knows how many times I tried over the years to give up soda and just walk away from soda. As simple as that is, I mean, soda isn't going to necessarily, might not be the reason why you die, but it's definitely going to contribute to, some health issues, whatever. And one day I woke up one day and I said, I'm done with soda. I'm done. And it took about a week before I was really fully done with soda. But now I wake up and I don't even think about it. I don't go out to eat, and think, oh, I need a soda right now. It's like, oh, I'll take a water. I'll take a tea. I'll take 17 tequilas instead of a soda, like whatever. But it's definitely is the whole point is saying I can connect to that in that way, and other people connect to it through other addictions like alcohol or drugs or a relationship or sugar, a relationship that they're in that they need to get out of, or a job that they finally need to quit. Do you mind if we talk a little bit about the production company?
No, go ahead.
So that's for me. I look at you as somebody who knows their shit, and somebody who, for the most part, made really good decisions in WCW and has, you had some great success with the production company. You told me that you guys dissolved the company about a year and a half ago. Can you talk a little bit more about the decision to finally say, yeah, this isn't working out and we can't keep moving forward in this with this company?
Yeah, sure I can. It was a tough decision because Jason Hervey and I were not only close friends for were close friends before we started the production company together. But, you know, we worked together pretty hard and accomplished, you know, quite a bit from about 2003 till about 2014, 2015, so a little over a decade. We were rocking and rolling and having a blast doing it. And we complemented each other very well. But as I said, you know, about 3 or 4 years ago, we started noticing that it was a lot harder to sell shows than it previously had been. For example, I'll just give you some kind of top line examples. Do you remember the show Hulk Hogan Celebrity Championship Wrestling?
Yes.
On CMT?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We sold that show in a room, basically, verbal pitch, no paper pitch, no video, no sizzle reel, no pilot, no 17-minute pilot, or now some networks ask for full 1 hour arable pilots.
Wow.
And none of that. And we got $750,000 an episode for that show.
Wow.
In today's environment, one is lucky on a new show. Now, once you're a hit, that's a different deal. Mm-hmm. But on a new first run series, non-scripted, you're fighting for your life to get $350,000 an episode. So the budget's completely collapsed, and so did the profit margins along with them. And on top of that, networks were buying fewer and fewer shows. They were taking fewer risks because as streaming was coming along and advertisers were allocating more of their overall annual budget to streaming platforms instead of cable and network, all of a sudden the money that cable outlets had to work with became significantly less, and they had to be more careful with it. So they took fewer risks and they cut the budgets. At that point, Jason and I started just looking at the math. Yeah. You know, we were each in the probably not seven figures, but damn close to it, close enough to call it seven figures if you're going to round up a little bit. Mm-hmm. We're each making close to seven figures a year and have been for quite a while, and that collapsed to probably 20% of that. And all of a sudden, you realize, wow, we can't afford staff. We can't afford this office over in Burbank. We can't, you know, we got to cut down. And that's when we realized that the business model had changed so much that the partnership that we had that was based on the previous business model no longer worked. And we each had to go our separate ways in order to kind of survive this new evolution of entertainment. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what Jason is doing now. You know, we don't really stay in too close a touch. But, you know, as you know, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit, you know, I've kind of gotten away from television and have moved into more digital platforms. I'm developing my own OTT platform right now and have been for a couple of years. We're really getting close to being able to launch something soon. Feature film business is a lot more interesting to me than I ever thought it would be, because I never thought I had the skill set. Yeah. Or the relationship of Rolodex, you know, to break into that world, because it's a completely different world than television. Television is its own universe. You know, feature films are its own universe. The language is different. The deals are different. The process is different. Everything's different. And I never thought at this point in my life I'd be knocking on that door, but here I am. And I think it was just time. You know, we had, as they say in the wrestling business, we had a hell of a run. We made a lot of money. We had a blast, made some new friends, but it was time that we just each took our own path. So
I would like to know about this, and you mentioned it recently, actually this last episode of 83 Weeks, but I had actually texted you when the news broke. You're going to be executive producing a film on the legendary career of Hulk Hogan, and I believe it's the early career, was it Chris Hemsworth?
Yeah, I'm actually producing, not executive
producing. Okay.
And in the future world, that makes a difference. As I've learned, I didn't know that, but it does. You know, television being the executive producer is really the big damn deal, right?
Yeah.
In the feature world, being the producer is the big damn deal, unless of course you're the director or the star.
Yeah.
So I'm producing along with Michael Sugar. I don't know if you know who Michael Sugar is. He's had a tremendous amount of success as a producer in Hollywood. I think he won an Academy Award for Limelight. couple years ago.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Todd Phillips is the director that's been attached. Todd Phillips is just finishing, I think, post-production on The Joker for Warner Brothers as
Very
we
cool.
speak. And Scott Silver is the writer. Scott, in addition to 8 Mile, wrote The Fighter,
Nice.
which is a very, very cool movie. So it's a kind of an all-star cast of, above the line, below the line talent. Obviously, Chris Hemsworth's kind of a $2 billion big deal as of last week.
Yeah.
So he's going to be playing Hulk Hogan. So that you read about this in Variety. I'm not talking about anything that hasn't already been disclosed to the public, and I can't talk about anything more than that, unfortunately, because I'm under an NDA, as you would expect.
Yes.
But it's a very it's early in the process, as you read in the magazine article from Variety. There's a long way to go. It's a long process, but just the fact that I get to talk to these people and honestly, I'm going at this, guys. I'm like the happiest fly on the wall that ever existed. But it's a hell of an opportunity. But can't remember how all this question started, but here I am today, learning to do new shit.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to get a quick comment on that because I had texted you, hey, can I get a comment for an article I wrote about it? And unfortunately, you weren't able to give me one, but I'm glad that we were able to. Moxy, I think it's time for signature question number 2.
Yeah?
Yeah.
The funny one, you think? Well, it's not really funny. It's very serious, actually.
Let's do the serious one.
The serious one?
Yeah, let's do the serious one.
Okay.
Do you want me to do it? Or?
Yeah, because I actually don't know which one you mean now.
Okay. So Eric, a little backstory behind our show.
Oh my gosh.
Is she thinks that everyone that she meets becomes her best friend. You're probably her best friend now.
No, not everyone.
We literally just came from lunch, and you called the waitress your best friend. And anyway, so I don't believe you can have more than one best friend. I think you can only have one best friend. So the question, one of our signature questions behind this podcast is we want to know what people think about this controversial idea of whether or not you can have more than one best friend. So Eric, outside of your spouse, because I think that that's a very special version of a best friend, can you have more than one best friend? In your opinion?
Oh, that's deep. I'm not that. I'm not that deep of a guy.
Let's get him some weed, and he will be.
I joke about weed, but I don't really smoke it much.
Yeah, I know.
Occasionally, but
let's get him some yerba mate tea then.
Yerba mate, I'm all over that.
Yeah.
I just had about a half a pot of it about an hour ago.
Nice.
I outside of my family, because I'm very close to my son and my daughter, and it's different than what one might expect as a son of Nikki. Stop. She's my best friend too. My son and my daughter are very much my best friends, as well as my wife. It's a very, very tight family, right? And I don't think of my son. I want to be careful how I say this. I don't think of my son. I would imagine the way most people think of a son or a daughter. I think of my son and my daughter as my closest friends, and I relate to them that way because now they're adults.
Yeah.
I don't need to be their protector anymore. Every once in a while, they'll call me up and ask for some advice. Not often, because they're really smart kids and they've developed well on their own. Kids, they're adults, and they're so stable and so smart and so talented. They don't need me that much in terms of a father figure, but we're very, very close, very close. Now, outside of my immediate family and my dog, I would say I'm friends with a lot of people. Not a lot, actually. I'm friends with a few people I consider friends. But if I had to pick one, and this is by picking this person, it would because this is the guy that no matter how good things get or how bad things are, we stay in touch. Which kind of thins out the herd, by the way. Everybody's your buddy when things are going great.
Yeah.
It gets real freaking lonely, when things aren't. But Hulk Hogan and I we've ridden the wave together. The absolute best of times, the absolute worst of times for him and for me.
Yeah.
We've ridden that wave together, and we're still here. So, if I had to pick one, it would be him outside of my family. But at the same time, there were other people that I see, and I love them to death. DDP and I are close friends. I don't talk to him but maybe 2 or 3 times a year because I don't like to talk on the phone, and he loves to talk on the phone. It's just overwhelming how much he loves to talk on the phone. But when I see him in person, it's like, 2 minutes went by since the last time I saw him.
Yeah.
Booker T is a good friend of mine. Ric Flair. So many of those guys that I see. Scott Hall, believe it or not. X-Pac, Sean Walt. These are people, when I see them, I feel a special way because I have a special bond with them. But they're not people that I stay in touch with on a regular basis, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. So, and that's what I thought your answer was going to be, because I know, I've heard, I don't know personally, but I know that you and Hulk have always been tight. I remember watching this old thing that WCW put out about the NWO. It was a VHS tape. It was like an hour long. The NWO is a wrestling thing. I'll tell you about it later. She's not much of a wrestling
I know
fan.
nothing, by the way, so I apologize.
Which is why I'm asking a lot of the wrestling questions. But I remember you were sitting on this bike, and you looked up at the camera, and you said, Hulk Hogan bought me this bike. And I don't know why, but that always that stuck in my head as something. I'm thinking, wow, these guys are really friends. And this is back 15, 20 years ago when I first saw this.
It was in 1995, or it was in 1995. He bought me a 1995 Harley Davidson Bad Boy and had it shipped to my house for a Christmas present.
Yeah, and didn't you recently just auction that off?
No. Actually, my son has it in Florida.
Oh, okay.
I had the NWO chopper.
Oh, that's what it was.
And I put that up for auction, but I decided to hold on to it. I didn't want to get. I don't ride it.
Yeah.
It's actually sitting in Arizona, and it's being well taken care of, but I don't ride it anymore. But I can't get myself to get rid of it.
Yeah, it's a very sentimental piece. Hey, Eric, you and I will both be in Vegas in a couple of weeks for a little small event called StarCast. I'm going as a patron and hopefully as a press member. I'm hoping that they're going to do some press passes. But you're going to be there entertaining all of us wrestling fans. You guys have a Nitro retrospective, I believe, with Guy Evans and the Nitro book. What are you looking forward to in Vegas at StarCast?
Sushi.
Is that your way of telling me that I owe you sushi?
No, you don't owe me anything, brother. But I love sushi. I love good food. And it's funny, when I was much younger, I would go to Las Vegas and I would look forward to all of the decadent, sinful attractions that Las Vegas had to offer. And I, that was a big part of it. You go to gamble, you go to the Crazy Horse, you go here, you go there. It was one big crazy, fun party when you're young. Now when I go to hotels that don't have gaming on the floor because I hate listening to slot machines going off all the time. Yeah. I don't like to walk through smoke-filled casinos. I like quiet. Mm-hmm. I like peaceful when I go to Las Vegas, which is kind of unusual. But I also know that, when I go to Las Vegas, the best Italian food, the best Japanese food, the best Korean food, the best all kinds of American food, the best steakhouses, the best of anything that you want from a food perspective, other than being in New York City, is in Las Vegas. And it's all in one concentrated little area. So over the course of 4 or 5 nights, I'm going to be able to hit some magnificent restaurants.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking forward to. Now, business-wise, StarCast is an incredibly successful and energizing event. And I love going because it's this really cool mixture of an entirely new wrestling audience, really young guys that are into the Young Bucks and Cody Rhodes and, the whole AEW, cast of characters and performers. And that's a whole new wrestling audience. It's like the next generation that, many of them weren't even alive when I was doing Nitro. Or they're like Moxy. They have no idea what it was. But they come together with also a group of wrestling fans who have been fans for 20 or 30 years. So you get this young and old, this diverse mixture of fan base that to me is kind of exhilarating and fun to be around. I feel young again when I'm around that young audience. It changes the way I look at things, which I'm appreciative for. It influences my outlook in a positive way. So I'm looking forward to that. It's like going and getting, recharged in a way. And it's always fun meeting fans. And I love to entertain. If I'm up on stage for 15 or 20 minutes and I can make people laugh or give them information or a point of view that maybe they never had before because they never heard it from that perspective, whether it was about business or whatever. That to me is really rewarding. But most of all, I like watching people have fun.
Yeah.
I'm not a stand-up comedian. I'm absolutely the unfunniest person you've ever met in your life. I have no sense of humor. I don't. I just flat out don't. I can't tell a joke to save my life. I can't remember a freaking joke to save my life. You can tell me the funniest joke. I can wet myself here doing this interview, and by tomorrow morning after breakfast, I won't remember what made me laugh so hard. It doesn't work in my head. But, wrestling stories in and of themselves are inherently kind of funny. Yeah. Because the characters in those stories are over the top, on camera and off. And the situations that we've all seen on the road are mind-blowingly ridiculous. So to be able to tell those stories for a guy that's not funny and has no sense of humor, and be able to tell those stories and watch people laugh, it's like, whoa, kids do this. Now, other than telling a wrestling story, I couldn't put 12 people in a comedy club unless they were hammered. But in a wrestling environment, I can talk about wrestling stories that people hear and laugh, and it makes me feel good. And I just like it.
Yeah.
It's fun, and I hope we run into each other in Vegas, because I'm buying another copy of Controversy Creates Cash, just so you can sign it, because it's been a lifelong dream of mine to have an Eric Bischoff signed book.
Well, don't buy one, brother. I got a whole garage. I got about 4,000 of those motherfuckers sitting in my garage. So, I'll bring one for you.
All right. Well, I will send you $20 for it at least. That way you can get a royalty out of it.
Like I said, I've got a whole garage. Here's a little story. So when, after the book was published and everybody figured, okay, we've sold as many of these books as we're going to sell, WWE had about 3,000 of them.
Oh my gosh.
In their warehouse. So Bob Ryder, who I used to know when I worked with TNA, somehow he found out about that WWE was selling these books for like $2 a piece.
Oh,
wow.
And these were the hardcovers, brand new, still in the box.
Dang.
And that's what I said, Moxy.
Yeah.
I said, dang. I thought, well.
Is that all you said?
No, I said, dang. Well, no, I said, I'm going to pick up the phone, I'm going to place the order. But I bought all of those books thinking, well, I can sign them, for autographs and take them to, signings and things. I should be able to get rid of 4,000 books pretty easily. I got about 3,500 of them left. So
wow.
Give me one.
Wow.
And by the way, it was back in 2009. So.
Oh, so it's been 10 years. All right. Well, yeah. Well, hopefully, I'll text you the week beforehand. And be like, yo, remember my book?
That'll be fine. We'll do that.
All right, Eric. It's time for signature question number 3. This one's a bit more fun. So, Moxy, take it away.
Yeah. I love hearing you talk about the food in Vegas because that's one of my favorite things too. I think last time I was in Vegas, I was on tour with my band, and
She was also 12.
I was 17. We jogged to the CVS to get medicine for our drummer, and then we stayed up until 2 a.m. eating brownie sundaes. So that was my favorite part of Vegas as well, was the food. I guess I have 2 questions. Is there a good taco place that you know of in Vegas?
No. And truth be told, I haven't been back to Vegas now. It's been 7 years since I've been back to Vegas. So I'm sure there's all kinds of new restaurants there.
Yeah.
The last time I was there, it was on the Strip. It was kind of across the street from the Harley Davidson Cafe. They didn't serve tacos there, but it was some of the best Irish food I've ever had in my life.
Nice.
Wow.
It was, and I love good traditional Irish food. I love Irish food. But tacos, which I'm a huge fan of Mexican food. I love Mexican food. but I haven't been back to Vegas, enough to know if there's anything new in town. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the Food Channel.
Oh, yeah.
Because they have those diners, drive-ins, and dives shows.
Yeah.
And Guy Fieri or whatever the frick his name is, he's always checking out some of the best little Mexican dive bars around the country, Mexican restaurants, family-owned small ones.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check. I'll go there and I'll say, okay, where diners, drive-ins, and dives, Mexican food, Las Vegas.
Nice.
And I guarantee you 5 of them will come up, and I'll hit one of them.
Nice. Okay, well then that leads into our signature question, which is, what's your favorite taco?
I love traditional stuff.
Okay.
I love traditional Mexican taco is not like a taco you're going to get in an American restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Shell's different. It's prepared differently. I love traditional Mexican food, really. I'll eat, you can't find that. When I lived in Phoenix, I could find it. It was awesome. I lived in Phoenix for about 6 or 8 years. Mexican food was outstanding there.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you guys are. You can find. Here's the deal. Here's my rule with Mexican food. When I have the luxury of following this rule, if I'm in LA, for example, or Phoenix or Vegas, I'll only go to Mexican restaurants that are family owned.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer that no one in the restaurant speaks English.
Yep.
Even if they can, I don't want to hear it because it makes it feel more traditional to me if they don't speak English. Like if I walk up and I see an Hispanic dude, he says, "Hey, brother, what do you want?" I'll go, "Oh, damn." This is true with when I go to a sushi bar, and I don't mean to sound whatever. I'm sure this is going to be politically incorrect, but when I go to a sushi bar, I want to see a traditional, preferably older, native Japanese preparing that fish.
Yeah.
Because I know I've spent a lot of time in Japan. I've had the luxury of having people that I'm close friends with that grew up in Japan. I understand what it takes for a traditional Japanese sushi chef to become a actual Japanese sushi chef. And it's like going through law school.
Man.
At school. And I look for those places because I know they're going to pick the best fish. I know they know how to make the right kind of rice. I know that they know what they're doing. When I walk into a sushi bar and it's a bunch of 22-year-old college students behind the bar, it's kind of like, When I walk into an Irish pub, that's what I love about Irish pubs in New York City. You go to an Irish pub in New York City and everybody's there is from Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And for some reason, the food just tastes better because of it.
Yeah.
So if I go to a Russian restaurant or a Polish restaurant, I want native, Polish or Russian people making the food because I want it to feel authentic. I don't want to feel like somebody got the recipe like I do off the Food Network.
Right. Eric, next time I go to Mexico, I'm gonna get you some Mexican seasoning for your steaks and stuff. 'Cause I know you like to grill steaks and all that fun stuff. So I'm gonna get you some good Mexican seasoning.
And same thing, my other favorite, and this one is a passion for me, more so in the last few years than I ever thought it would be, Indian food.
Really? Okay.
Oh, like Eastern Indian food?
Yeah.
When I was in Liverpool last week or week before, whatever it was, I found an Indian restaurant real close to the hotel we were at, walking distance, and it was the best Indian food I've ever had in my life. I went back 2 nights in a row.
Wow.
In fact, I ate so much the first night that when I walked in the restaurant the second night, they went, "Oh, we're so happy you're back. Here, you sat last night. Here's what you ordered last." I mean, they remembered what I ordered the night before.
Wow.
And so, you tried that, you should try this. If you like that, you'll like this even more. I was like, oh my gosh, I've died and gone to heaven.
So just I want to get down to an answer here though. If you can only eat one taco, what would it be? What's your favorite taco? What type of meat?
Oh, it would. I had a tongue taco in.
Yes, Eric, I love you, man. I love you for that.
Yeah, one of the best tacos I've ever had. My son Garrett actually took me to a traditional family-owned. They don't speak any English, Mexican restaurant in Clearwater, Florida.
Okay.
And it's called Lingua, right?
Yeah.
And my son,
Lengua.
Lengua. You got to try the lengua taco. So, well, what's the lengua taco? And he goes, it's beef taco. I said, oh, cool. I'll try that. And it was really good.
Yeah.
Like, really good.
Now, okay, so I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna throw this out there. Next time you're in Los Angeles and you're up for a drive to Orange County, let me know. My dad makes the best lengua, and I will invite you over to my home and have a traditional Mexican meal, lengua tacos, some rice, some beans, all homemade, and I'll have
it's a freaking date.
There you go.
That's gonna happen.
Awesome, man. Well,
Can I come?
Absolutely, yeah. Hey, we'll bring a camera crew. We'll film the whole thing. We'll make some money off of this.
That would be fun. That's some good YouTube stuff right there.
Absolutely. You guys can use it for your Patreon.
All right.
All right, so 83 Weeks. It's out every Monday. Sunday night at midnight, going into Monday morning. If you are a wrestling fan, definitely dive into it. Eric, where can people find you on the internets?
Primarily on Twitter, @ebischoff. I do an Instagram thing. I'm kind of getting the hang of that. I'm a slow learner. I have to remind myself to do it. But Instagram @TheEricBischoff. And that's about it. I don't do anything else.
Eric, thank you so much for doing this. Stay on the line for just 1 second, all right? That was Eric Bischoff.
Yes, it was.
And I'm Ruben J.
And I'm Moxy Ann.
And we are out of time.
No, seriously, though, that was an awesome interview, and I enjoyed just getting to sit and listen.
I do want to apologize to people who listen to this more for you, because they don't like me all that much. But that was such a fake laugh. So sad. No, I do want to apologize for anybody who tuned in expecting to hear more of Moxy on the interview. I took the lead on this one because
I know nothing about wrestling.
Yeah, it's just a world that I know a lot more about. But I also know Eric a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I wanted to there's certain things I wanted to get out of him. And Moxy was so generous as to just sit there and look pretty.
He was very. Thank you. Thank you for calling me pretty.
Well, I should have said, look there.
Thin.
Look there and sit pretty.
I have lost 20 pounds.
No, I said look there and sit pretty.
Look pretty and sit thin. He was great, though. It was a pleasure having him on the show, and I hope we get to have him back sometime.
Hopefully. Eric is one of my favorite people in the world, and I can't wait to see what he does next. It sucks that he's no longer producing television on a regular basis.
Yeah.
But, like he says, he moves on pretty quickly. Anything that stood out to you on this interview that you want to talk about?
Just the power of thought, you know?
I felt like we were in like a TED Talk with him.
Honestly, he just kept going, but I didn't want him to stop. It was like, it was amazing. And just kind of leaving things in the past, making sure that your thoughts have power. My friends all kind of look down on me for that thing that I draw on my arm because they're like, that's super unhealthy and you shouldn't push yourself like that. But the thing is, you do, like, controlling your mind and that mental discipline is one of the hardest things that you can do, and so I think it's the thing that you should strive for. You should strive to control your emotions. You should strive to know what's good for you and how to get there.
Absolutely. I think Mr. Feeney said it best.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember the exact words.
I have no idea what you're talking about. So.
Do you know who Mr. Feeney is?
Mr. Feeney?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. Is that like at the end of a silent movie when they put Feeney?
No. Let me see if I can find the quote. Okay. Oh, that was attractive.
Thanks.
I think Mr. Feeney says it best.
Yeah.
Believe in yourselves. Dream.
Selves?
In yourselves. Because.
Oh, he's talking to plural. Okay,
yeah.
Go ahead. Say it again.
Yeah, no, he's talking to multiple people.
Okay.
Do you not? Have you never watched Boy Meets World?
No, I haven't.
Okay, you need to watch it.
Okay.
You need to. You will cry.
All right.
All day long. But
I have cried all day long.
TLDR, it's basically the story of these guys who went from elementary school all the way through high school with the same teacher. Okay? It's really weird that it was the same teacher, but still. In the last episode, the last closing scene, Mr. Feeney says, believe in yourselves. Dream. Try. Do good. And then one of the smart-ass students says, you mean do well? And he goes, no, do good.
Nice.
and then an end scene. So go. Do good.
I will.
I'm Ruben J.
And I'm Moxy Ann.
And we are out of time.
Because that interview went so dang long.
Yeah. Sorry. This one will be an hour and 15 minutes. I apologize.
We'll see you next week.
And I can't figure out how to stop this damn recording.